out of the entire original Band of the Falcon, if there's one death that hit us harder than the rest combined, it's gotta be Judeau. The ever-smiling jack of all trades, Judeau's importance to Berserk lies not only in his skills or his role as a supporting character, but in the subtle, profound ways he embodies the manga's central themes of loyalty, selflessness, and the tragedy of unfulfilled potential. Through his personality, actions, and ultimately his death, Judeau leaves a lasting impact on our main characters and the narrative as a whole. In this video, we'll take a look at all the reasons nobody talks about Judeau, but they should. So strap on your spoiler hats, because things are about to get rough out here. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Quiet Heart of the Falcons. Judeau's introduction to Berserk. The Band of the Falcons was introduced as a group of mercenaries with a cult-like dedication to their supreme leader. In the first few dialogue exchanges between the Falcons, it's established rather quickly that all of them worship their leader and will follow his command without question. When we meet Guts after the time skip where he goes from being a child to an adolescent, he's grown so much as a fighter that he takes down the infamous Grey Knight Bazuso with less than a half-dozen blows. The Falcons, who were Bazuso's comrades, were sad to see him go, but not that sad overall because he wasn't their best fighter. That would be Griffith, and nothing happens in the band without Griffith's guidance or permission. Heck, when Corcus decided to jump Guts to make a name for himself, Griffith silently agreed to his proposition, and that just goes to show you how his men view him. Usually, mercenaries wouldn't care about their leader's opinion when trying to raid a single warrior, but the Falcons do, because here, Griffith's will is absolute and unquestionable. Judeau was introduced as the first man who questions Griffith openly, and this is something that stays with him throughout his tenure. His first piece of dialogue is him chastising Corcus for his negative behavioral aspects and wondering out loud whether Griffith allowing him to attack Guts was a wise decision. Judeau would be proven correct when Corcus ended up losing 2 Falcons and nearly dying himself, but he doesn't bask in that knowledge. He's not the kind of guy to tell you, "I told you so," because he believes people either learn their lesson or they don't. And while he does inquire about Griffith's intentions, or rather wisdom in letting his men engage in such buffoonery, Judeau never takes his inquisition too far because he knows that he's living with a choice he himself made. Judeau was a man of many skills, but he never quite became the master of them all. So he had decided a long time ago to dedicate his services to a man who could maximize his skill set and achieve great things with it. That man was Griffith, and these two guys couldn't be more different from one another. Judeau is often described as cheerful, friendly, and easygoing, traits that set him apart in the grim, violent world of Berserk. Despite his life as a mercenary, Judeau maintains a positive outlook, rarely seen without a smile or a witty remark. This isn't a facade to mask trauma, rather it's a genuine aspect of his character. He is approachable and warm, as evidenced by the fact that he's the first person to talk to Guts normally when he ends up in their encampment, making him one of the most well-liked members of the Band of the Falcon. Yet, beneath this lightheartedness lies a keen intelligence and emotional perceptiveness, the latter being a quality Griffith himself seems to lack entirely. Griffith is a man with many brilliant talents, but because his goal is so grand, he is always focused on the big picture. That has made him aloof to the concept of valuing other people's feelings. Griffith's laser-focused approach to becoming king has made him view all things human as nothing more than factors that affect his success. He has turned emotion into a plaything, which is why he's so good at manipulating others. Griffith uses his charm to seduce Princess Charlotte and his body to seduce Governor Genin, which means that he's aware of human emotions and how to use them, but the thing Griffith lacks is the capacity for self-reflection and understanding his tethered role in a relationship, which is something his comrade is really good at. Judeau is often the first to sense tensions or changes in group dynamics. He recognizes the growing bond between Guts and Casca before they themselves do, and he acts as a mediator during all kinds of conflicts, especially between more volatile members like Corcus and Guts. His empathy and diplomacy are so pronounced that fans and analysts often call him the peacemaker of the group because he's someone who values harmony and is willing to set aside his own desires for the greater good. In Griffith's case, he believes that whatever he does is the greater good, because that ideal can only be achieved with him as king. Griffith's desire to become ruler of the universe is the core driving force behind his actions, which causes him to be arrogant on occasion. Griffith has humble beginnings, but he's not a humble guy, which you would know if you've read the manga. Judau's humility is a defining trait of his character. He openly admits that he's not the best at anything, but this self-effacing attitude belies his true nature. His adaptability is crucial to the band's survival because Judeau is capable of filling any role at a moment's notice, making him one of the more reliable Falcons out there. He's content with supporting others, especially Griffith, because he thinks he personally lacks the charisma and story to take his place. Judeau admits that he doesn't know everything about everything or everyone, including Griffith, but he sees him as a natural leader worth following nonetheless because of their many years of camaraderie. Judeau might have been the deciding factor in Griffith's plans working out on several occasions, but he himself couldn't have planned things the way Griffith does. This humility and lack of ego make him indispensable even if he rarely seeks the spotlight because it makes him truly objective. Judeau doesn't take sides in a fight, he only points out what's happened and how it should have been handled in accordance with the laws of mercenary life. He's not a commander like Casca, but he can issue orders when necessary and do it just as well as Griffith. And then there are his myriad skills that we need to discuss. The jack of all trades is often called the master of none, but that doesn't seem to be true in Judau's case because he has honed his skills to the edge of perfection the best that he can. And all of those skills make him a much better, well-rounded asset than the rest of the Falcons. The versatile support we all need. Judau's treasure box of skills. Judau's skills are just as varied as his personality is nuanced, giving him experience in certain critical areas of operation. A former street thief who joined up with Griffith because he was impressed by his planning, Judeau still knows how to perform sleight of hand just as well. He used to be a part of a traveling group of performers which inculcated within him the arts of psychology and mummery. This would explain his uncanny ability to read people in situations like the back of his hand. Judeau is a pretty quick appraiser when it comes to people. He can judge their desires and core personality traits pretty accurately, even if they themselves seem to be unaware of it. When he had his first proper conversation with Guts, he realized that the big lug was just a kid wandering battlefields, looking for friends and something akin to a home. Judeau tells him that he wishes Guts could find his home with the Falcons, and unbeknownst to him, he was right. In later years, Guts would deeply regret leaving the band because he realized too late that they'd become irreplaceable to him. Judeau can peer through the soul of pretty much any person he meets in similar fashion, that is, if he cares enough to talk to them. He might be a goof, but he's only goofy with his friends, and when it's go time, he brings agility, dexterity, and an arsenal of tricks to the battlefield. Judeau is a master of throwing knives, a talent that proves invaluable in both combat and stealth operations. His precision and quick thinking allow him to take out enemies from a distance, cover his comrades' approaches and retreats, and create openings in the heat of battle. Beyond his knife skills, Judeau is a capable swordsman and a resourceful scout. He often undertakes reconnaissance missions, gathering intelligence and reporting back with insights that inform Griffith's strategies directly. His analytical mind and calm demeanor make him an effective strategist in his own right, and Griffith frequently relies on him for tactical advice. Perhaps the greatest display of this was his rapid and accurate assessment of Nosferatu Zod not only existing, but having joined up with the Falcon's enemies. Zod is a legend that most mercenaries don't even believe in, but Judeau isn't among them, which is why Guts is still alive. His usefulness extends beyond combat and reconnaissance, with his actions off the battlefield contributing to his holistic characterization. He's the group's unofficial medic, tending to wounds and offering comfort after battles. Whenever a man goes down, Judeau is there with a smile and a quip, helping their treatment, and when Guts returns from his 100-man slaughter, Judeau gives him the best medicine of all. We'll get to that in a few moments, but let us just round out our list of praise by adding one more thing. Despite not being trained as such, Judeau is also an exceptional teacher, offering guidance to younger or less experienced members. Guts wasn't his first trainee, and their relationship went beyond Judeau helping him adjust to having a social life. The Jack Master taught his burly friend how to throw knives with such accuracy that even after losing an eye and an arm, Guts was able to eye-shot targets with no hesitation. Judeau has also taken Rickert under his wing, whom he protects and guides in his quest to become the ultimate weaponsmith. This nurturing side reinforces his role as the emotional glue of the band, and it shows in moments like when he convinces Guts to join his first victory party as a Falcon, or when he shows up with a bunch of his comrades to collect the heavily wounded body of their 100-man slayer. Now that we've laid down all the things that make Judeau such a great individual, let's take a look at how he becomes the driver of Berserk's plot, because several major story moments occur courtesy of his influence. The Whip of Destiny! How Judeau put causality into motion. While Judeau wasn't always at the narrative's forefront, his actions consistently pushed the story forward in meaningful ways, especially during the Golden Age arc. When Guts first joins the Band of the Falcon, he's isolated and mistrustful with good reason. His life experience had taught him that no mercenaries were quite as sincere or jovial as the Falcons, and even though he was now one of them, Guts' way had always been isolating himself. Judeau is one of the first to reach out to him, inviting Guts to socialize at the party thrown in honor of his first mission and helping him integrate into the group. This act of kindness not only accelerates Guts' acceptance, but also lays the groundwork for the deep bonds that come to define him as a Falcon. Throughout the Golden Age arc, Judeau frequently steps in to diffuse tensions, especially between Corcus and Guts. Though he finds Corcus just as annoying as everyone else, he knows why Corcus behaves the way he does. Judeau has been a part of the Falcons long enough to know everyone's story, and Corcus used to be the uncharacteristically caring leader of a group of thieves before becoming a Falcon. Judeau knows that his arrogant nature is a consequence of his life experiences, which, quite frankly, make Corcus the most regular member of the band. His reactions to any given situation might seem extreme, but they often echo sentiments that you or I might possess. Corcus doesn't hate Guts because he's jealous of him, he hates Guts because he acts all high and mighty without ever appreciating what he has in the moment, which is true. Even Guts thinks that, when it comes down to it, Corcus was the one who had him figured out because his harshness was just truth that we, as readers, didn't want to acknowledge. The fact that he goes off on Guts and lives to tell the tale is because it happens in front of Judeau. His diplomatic interventions prevent rifts that could have permanently fractured the group, maintaining the unity essential for Griffith's success. Judeau's insights and reconnaissance are vital in several key battles, with the most important instance of this being his recognition of Nosferatu Zod as one of their enemies. Most other Falcons denied Zod's existence as mere myth, but Judeau not only believed it, he had also heard rumors of the Immortal joining up with Tudor, which turned out to be 100% accurate. You can say that it's because of him that Guts is still alive, and we wouldn't challenge you because you'd be correct. But perhaps his greatest contribution to the series is his rejection of his own feelings and encouragement of another's. It's revealed quite late into our journey, but turns out Judeau is in love with Casca. He never tells us how long things have been that way or why he loves her, but we know that he does because in any given situation, he always rushes to protect Casca first. When Guts comes along, Judeau has to make peace with the fact that there are now two someones better than him in his own group for the love of his life, but he doesn't let this knowledge shatter him. His unrequited love for Casca is handled with remarkable maturity. Rather than acting on his own feelings, he supports her relationship with Guts, recognizing that her happiness is more important than his own desires. After the Raider Captain's 100-man slaughter, he gives Casca some elf dust that he'd acquired during his time with the traveling performers group. He had used the elf dust to keep himself alive on many occasions, but he gave the pouch to Casca because it was his way of letting her go. He knew that despite their differences, Guts and Casca were destined to be with each other, so he helps Guts understand Casca's struggles and encourages him to pursue her even when he's leaving the Falcons, facilitating one of the series' central relationships. Speaking of Guts' departure, Judeau plays a key role there as well because he's instrumental in cementing Guts' call. When he first learns about the swordsman's plan to leave, he's confused because he truly thought that Guts had found what he was looking for. But once he heard his reasons, he recognized that Guts wanted to challenge Griffith as an equal to gain Casca's love, and he respected that decision because it was a man's decision. Corcus called Guts all sorts of stupids and not Griffiths, but Judeau simply expressed regret that the Falcons weren't good enough for Guts. When he led his comrade to that fateful snowy hill, Judeau wasn't expecting to see venom in Griffith's eyes, but he did, and he knew instantly what that meant. Judeau was the one who had to remind Casca that mercenaries settled their affairs with steel when she tried to stop Guts and Griffith from fighting because she was overstepping her mandate. He knew that she was changing as a person because standing up to Griffith was a pipe dream for the old Casca, but he also knew that this was one fight she couldn't interfere with, and he also recognized Griffith's unease at the prospect of losing Guts. Perhaps he should have been a bit more of an initiative taker. Maybe he could have told his fellow Falcons to stay on guard because he knows how Griffith gets when he doesn't get what he wants. But he didn't do that because Judeau treats himself like a background character in his own life. He let his girl go because he thought he wasn't good enough. He let Guts overshadow him because he wasn't strong enough. Judeau is the epitome of the self-sacrificing man, which makes his final moments that much stronger. This is because, out of all of the Falcons, Judeau was the only one who sort of saw the eclipse coming and he was definitely responsible for the way Guts' life panned out after that event. The ultimate sacrifice and how it shaped Berserk, Judeau and the Eclipse. Judeau's most significant character moment comes during the eclipse. As the apostles descend and the Falcons are slaughtered, Judeau focuses on protecting Casca because he knows that she is the last hope for the group's legacy. The Jack Master had started figuring out that something was terribly wrong with the way Griffith was ramping things up even before Guts' departure. He knew that Griffith's only safe and secure path to the throne was by marrying Princess Charlotte, and he knows Griffith well enough to know that anything unusual occurring in Charlotte's life would have probably been by design. Griffith's design, that is. But the fact that the Falcon excludes one of his oldest squad leaders from his clandestine operations is quite telling, because as we've established throughout this video, Judeau would have been the perfect decoy, thief, or assassin for Griffith. His past experiences with thievery and mummery give him a strong base for creating disguises. His knowledge of herbs and medicine could have allowed him to create whatever poison he wished to use on the target. Heck, he probably wouldn't even need to get close to them because his accuracy with throwing knives is so intense. By every metric, Judeau would have been the perfect choice to take out General Julius, so Griffith's path to the throne opened up further. But he wasn't involved in that plan or the subsequent plan to gather every opponent of the Falcons in the royal court like kindling and set fire to them all at once. Griffith chose Guts as his assassin, and his reasons were the swordsman's discretion and roughness. He knew that Guts wouldn't open his mouth to anyone, and sure, Judeau could have given him that same level of discretion, but the roughness comment is what really reveals his reasons. Griffith likely knew that if he asked Judeau to perform the tasks he asked Guts to perform clandestinely, he'd have to listen to either a lecture, an alternate and safer method to achieve his goals, or worst case scenario, his plans would have gotten leaked. This is because, despite all his experience, Judeau was an honest, good, and righteous person. He might have been a thief in a former life, but assassination is a whole other ballgame, and Griffith was probably right in opting for Guts over Judeau. Shortly before Guts' departure, Judeau uses his keen analytical skills to figure out that every death in the royal court is somehow connected to Griffith because his path to Charlotte had been cleared ruthlessly, and it's at this point where he and Griffith differ as individuals. Judeau participated in the Griffith rescue mission not because he wanted to see Griffith again, but because he knew that if everyone else doesn't, they're all doomed to die. As soon as Griffith is brought back to camp, he tells Guts to leave with Casca, even if she refuses, because he knows that seeing her idle in such a state will compel her to stay with them. And then, 3 people will be forced to give up what they love instead of just him. When the eclipse commences, he fights valiant, using his knives to hold off the monsters and yelling at his comrades to run for shelter as best they can because their leader has betrayed them. Unlike fellows like Corcus, whose minds broke because of the sheer horror of the eclipse, Judeau retained clarity, which transformed his turning opinion of Griffith into a malignant one. The Jack Master manages to rescue Casca from being cornered by riding the only living horse to her and gallops in the opposite direction of everyone else because he knows that she is the Band of the Falcon now. In the year that Judeau had served as her second-in-command while they fled from the full might of Midland, he had come to see Casca, not Griffith, as the Falcon after whom the band was named, and the eclipse basically confirmed this notion for him. Judeau ultimately sacrifices himself to give Casca a chance to escape, and in his final moments, he tries to confess his feelings to her. As he succumbs to his wounds, Judeau reflects on his life and his emotions for Casca, lamenting that he was never able to be the best at anything, not even confessing his love. Yet, in his final act, he demonstrates a kind of greatness that transcends skill or fame, the willingness to put others before himself, even in the face of certain death. Instead of making his confession and confusing Casca in an already tense situation, Judeau chooses instead to comfort her as he dies in her arms. This act of selflessness is both heartbreaking and heroic, embodying the best of what the Band of the Falcon stood for. Judeau's death is one of the most poignant in Berserk. Unlike some characters who die in a blaze of glory, Judeau's end is quiet, almost gentle, despite the carnage raging around him. He dies not as a great warrior or a legendary hero, but as a friend trying to save someone he loves. This contrast highlights the fact that Judeau might not have been the strongest or the most famous Falcon, but he was perhaps the most human. His death marks the end of the band's relatively innocent and benign existence and the beginning of a darker, more solitary journey for its only survivors, Guts, Casca, and Rickard. Judeau's character sends a powerful message about the value of quiet strength and selfless love. In a story dominated by larger-than-life figures, Judeau stands out precisely because he is ordinary. He has no grand destiny, no overwhelming power. What he offers instead is loyalty, empathy, and the courage to do what's right, even when it goes unnoticed. His humility is a lesson in itself. Judeau never seeks recognition, content to play a supporting role. Yet, as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that the Band of the Falcon could not have achieved what it did without him. He represents the very concept of unsung heroes, the friends, confidants, and supporters who make greatness possible for others. Judeau's unrequited love for Casca is another facet of his selflessness. Rather than letting jealousy or resentment fester, he chooses to support her happiness. This mature, generous approach to love is rare in fiction and even rarer in a world as brutal as Berserk's. It shows that true affection is not about possession or reward, but about wanting the best for someone, even at personal cost. Finally, Judeau's death underscores the tragedy of wasted potential. He dies believing he was never the best at anything, but we all know better. His virtues are precisely what make him exceptional, even if he never realized it himself, and in our opinion, Judeau would have been a much better leader for the Falcons. His measured and empathetic approach to life stands in direct contrast with Griffith's all-grasping ways, and the one thing that separates these two men is the concept of morality. Griffith seemed to not have it in him, yet Judeau's morality is so refined that he can accurately decipher who needs to be assigned blame in a situation and how. If push came to shove, we don't think Judeau would have resorted to things like assassination and falsely seducing the princess, because ultimately, Judeau prioritized being a good man over being a great king. In this way, Judeau serves as a reminder that greatness is not always measured by victories or fame, but by the quiet, everyday acts of kindness and courage that hold people together. Even after his death, Judeau's influence lingers. His actions during the eclipse ensured Casca's survival, which in turn preserves the last remnant of the Band of the Falcon's spirit. Casca's later journey and her eventual reunion with Guts are only possible because of Judeau's sacrifice. For Guts, Judeau is a model of friendship and loyalty. The memory of his kindness and support helps anchor Guts in his darkest moments, reminding him of what he's fighting for. Judeau's example also serves as a counterpoint to Griffith's ambition. Where Griffith pursues greatness at any cost, Judeau finds meaning in service and sacrifice. Among fans, Judeau is remembered as one of the most beloved characters in the series. His relatability, humility, and quiet heroism resonate deeply, offering a different kind of inspiration than the series' more dramatic figures. Ultimately, Judeau's legacy is a testament to the power of ordinary goodness in an extraordinary world. He shows that heroism is not always about grand gestures or legendary feats, but about the quiet, steadfast support we offer to those we care about. In a story as dark and tragic as Berserk, Judeau's light shines all the brighter, reminding readers that even in the bleakest circumstances, there is value in kindness, loyalty, and love, values that our protagonists are in dire need of, especially today. Marvelous verdict! Unfortunately, that's all we got for you for this one. Let us know your thoughts on Judeau in the comments down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing Berserk content. We'll see you guys in the next one, so until then, stay safe, and remember, keep on struggling, strugglers, because that's what Judeau would have wanted.